You've been told to hope for the best but prepare for the worst. Yet what if this very mindset is the reason life feels like a battle? Imagine the shift, walking through your day with the unshakable belief that everything is unfolding in your favor, not in denial of hardship but in defiance of defeat. That's the kind of posture that rewires your reality. Because when you move as if life supports you, you activate the unconscious forces that make it true. Still, maybe you're thinking, that sounds naive. How can I act like things are working out when everything seems to be falling apart? The answer lies not in fantasy, but in depth psychology. Carl Jung taught that your outer life is a mirror of your inner stance. And the good news? You can choose that stance. This video is for those ready to embody a new story, not by force, but through presence. And it starts with one decision: to trust the unfolding before you see the proof. There's a force within you that is stronger than fear, but it often lies dormant beneath layers of doubt. To awaken it, one must begin with a question few dare to ask. What posture does your soul assume when no one is watching? Acting as if everything works out for you is not delusion, it's a declaration. A way of saying to life, I trust the unfolding. This trust isn't passive. It's a conscious choice to engage with the world from a state of inner alignment. When you carry yourself as though life supports you, your entire reality begins to shift. This shift isn't cosmetic, it's alchemical. Because posture isn't just physical, it's psychological. It's the shape your beliefs take in your body. And when you stand as though you belong in every room you enter, your subconscious listens. The world responds not to your appearance, but to your conviction. Carl Jung knew this well. He taught that your outer experience mirrors your inner state. So if your stance is guarded, life mirrors back resistance. But if it's open, life meets you with possibility. How often do we move through the day as though we're already defeated? Shoulders hunched, eyes low, breath shallow. This isn't mere body language. It's an unconscious agreement with powerlessness. And that's where the deeper work begins. Changing your inner posture starts with awareness. The way you walk, speak, and breathe tells your psyche what kind of story it's living. If you want a different story, start by standing differently. When you choose to embody faith even before you feel ready, you begin to participate in a sacred process of transformation. This is not fake it till you make it. It's live it until it becomes real. Faith, in Jungian terms, is not blind optimism. It's the archetypal energy of the self remembering its place in the cosmos. And once this energy is activated, everything starts to reorganize. Not instantly, but inevitably. Because the posture of trust sends a signal to both psyche and world. I am available for alignment. Pause for a moment and ask, what would it look like if I moved today as if life were already working in my favor? Not just in moments of ease, but in discomfort. How would you speak? What energy would you emit? This is more than performance. It's a return to your original state before fear taught you to hide. And in that return, you don't just change your results, you change your identity. Every person carries a hidden script, an internal narrative that whispers who they are and what they deserve. But this story isn't fixed. It evolves based on the role you choose to play. Are you the hero, shaped by purpose and courage, or the victim, imprisoned by blame and fear? Jung taught that the unconscious shapes our reality unless we make it conscious. When you walk through life believing you're powerless, your psyche obliges. It builds a world that confirms your wounds. But when you claim authorship, even the scars begin to speak of strength. Being the hero doesn't mean being fearless. It means acting in spite of fear. The hero archetype lives within everyone, waiting for activation. It's the part of you that steps forward even when the path is unclear. Victimhood clings to the past, reciting all that went wrong. But the hero moves toward transformation, asking not why me, but what is this teaching me? That simple shift in question is a revolution in perception. It breaks the cycle of helplessness and creates space for growth. There is power in refusing to rehearse your limitations. When adversity comes, and it will, the hero doesn't deny the pain, but neither does he become it. He transmutes it. He stands in the fire of his own life, not to burn, but to be refined. This is the psychology of resilience. The world outside may remain uncertain, but the inner world becomes anchored. And that inner anchor is what magnetizes new realities, not through force, but through embodiment. We often wait for the world to treat us as worthy before we believe it ourselves. But the psyche works in reverse. It waits for you to move as if you already are. That's when transformation begins, not with perfect circumstances, but with a courageous posture. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole. It starts when you choose the hero, not because it's easy, but because it's true. Ask yourself, who have I been in my hardest moments? The hero who rises or the victim who repeats? This isn't about blame, it's about power. Power to choose a new identity in the face of old patterns. Power to rewrite the script, not just in words but in being. The moment you stop defining yourself by the wound and start embodying the healer, your life begins to shift from reaction to authorship. Luck is rarely random. More often, it's a reflection of inner alignment or lack of it. Jung revealed that deep within the psyche dwell ancient archetypes: the inner child, the saboteur, the warrior, the healer. These are not abstract symbols. They are energies that guide our choices, reactions, and perceptions. When the saboteur archetype is in control, we unconsciously push away opportunities, attract chaos, or repeat familiar failures, and then we call it bad luck. But it's not fate, it's programming. Self-sabotage isn't a flaw. It's a protective mechanism rooted in outdated beliefs. If your unconscious believes success threatens your belonging, it will quietly sabotage your efforts to stay safe. That's why mindset alone isn't enough. You must go deeper. You must bring light to the shadows. Jung called this process shadow integration, facing the parts of you you've rejected so they no longer control you from the dark. Without this, even your best plans will collapse under invisible resistance. Your unconscious doesn't care what you want. It only responds to what you believe you deserve. And that belief is often buried under childhood wounds, ancestral narratives, or collective fears. This is where your luck changes, not at the surface level of action, but in the roots of identity. When you bring the hidden saboteur into awareness, you no longer react. You respond. You choose. And that choice is the birthplace of a new reality. Reclaiming your inner archetypes is not abstract work. It's deeply practical. The moment you notice your own patterns, why you procrastinate, why you fear success, why you repeat relationships, you begin to reclaim power. Power to realign your unconscious with your conscious intention. And in that alignment, luck begins to favor you. Not because the world changed, but because your energy did. If this resonates, make it real. Write in the comments, I choose to be the author of my own story. Let your unconscious hear it. Let your energy shift. The moment you stop sabotaging yourself, the universe no longer has to protect you from your own potential. It can finally conspire in your favor. What if everything really is working out for you, even now, even in the mess? Imagine waking up with that quiet certainty pulsing in your chest. That's not just wishful thinking. That's the result of someone who has stepped into authorship, who no longer negotiates with fear, but partners with life itself. But let's be honest, trust feels naive when you've been hurt. Acting as if things will work out can sound delusional when your reality screams otherwise. You've been told that only proof creates belief. But what if it's the other way around? Carl Jung taught that the unconscious responds not to logic, but to embodiment. And when you embody faith before you see the evidence, something ancient awakens. You don't just change your mindset, you shift the entire field around you. This video isn't for those chasing comfort. It's for those ready to reclaim their energy. It's for the ones who feel the call to stop reacting and start becoming. Here, we don't preach blind optimism. We teach how to make trust a daily practice grounded in the psyche's deepest truths. Because here's the truth. The way you walk into life shapes the life that meets you. And when you walk as if you're already supported, life often proves you right. Most people wait for fear to disappear before they act. But Carl Jung would argue, It's the act itself that dissolves fear. Transformation doesn't wait for emotional permission. It begins the moment you move forward while your hands are still shaking. The modern psyche is conditioned to overanalyze, to stall in search of certainty. Yet both ancient wisdom and modern science agree. Action precedes belief. What you do shapes what you feel. It's through movement that the soul awakens. In a Harvard study, participants who adopted expansive power poses for just 2 minutes experienced hormonal shifts, increased confidence, decreased anxiety. But the real revelation? They behaved differently. They took more risks, spoke with conviction, embodied authority. This is not performance, it's biochemistry. When you move with faith, even without full belief, your body sends new instructions to the brain. The unconscious listens, and the outer world adjusts to reflect this inner command. Jung called this the principle of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that align with your inner state. When your actions reflect trust, life responds in kind, not always in ways you expect, but always with resonance. Faith, then, is not passive belief. It's embodied alignment. It's walking into the unknown with dignity, not because you're fearless, but because you're committed to becoming. This kind of posture sends ripples into your environment. It attracts what belongs to the self you're becoming. The nervous system cannot tell the difference between a danger imagined and one real. That's why discipline of the mind is essential. Every thought, gesture, tone of voice becomes part of a greater symphony of belief. To turn fear into faith is not to erase fear, it's to lead it, to become the conductor of your own emotional orchestra. This is where the mystical meets the measurable, where neuroscience affirms what Jung always knew. Your energy precedes your experience. There's a quiet power in those who trust themselves, not loudly, but with steady conviction. They don't beg life for signs. They walk as if chosen. Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, the vast field where our inner frequency communicates beyond words. When your outer actions align with inner belief, you activate that field. And the world responds, not because you force it, but because you've become magnetic to what matches your vibration. It's not manipulation, it's resonance. People feel your presence before you speak. The way you enter a room, hold silence, make eye contact, it all speaks to the unconscious of others. It says, I know who I am. And that certainty is contagious. You don't have to prove yourself to be felt. You only need to embody your truth. That's the difference between effort and embodiment. Effort pushes, embodiment invites. When you live from embodied self-worth, you stop chasing outcomes and start attracting alignment. This doesn't mean everything becomes easy, but the resistance lessens. Because you're no longer at war with yourself. The energy you send out no longer contradicts the result you desire. Life doesn't reward perfection. It responds to coherence. When your actions, beliefs, and energy move as one, synchronicities increase. Support appears. You don't control the timing, but you do influence the flow. That's the secret most people miss. Life responds best when you stop performing and start becoming. To embody trust is to give life permission to meet you. It's to send a message not just to the world, but to your own psyche. I am available for good things. This shifts your posture, your voice, your choices, and those shifts reshape your reality. It's not mystical fluff. It's neurobiology, psychology, and the soul converging in action. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are giving it to yourself. And that changes everything. I invite you to reflect now. What does your presence say before you speak? Because whether you notice or not, you are always broadcasting a signal. What frequency are you emitting? What reality is that frequency inviting? Your transformation starts not in what you do next, but in how you are in this very moment. In a world obsessed with control, trust is often mistaken for weakness. But Carl Jung knew that surrender is not passivity. It's partnership with the unseen. The millionaire mind doesn't obsess over every detail. It focuses on alignment, intention, and presence. It acts with devotion, then releases the outcome. Why? Because it understands this truth. What's meant for you flows when you stop gripping it with fear. Trust is not giving up. It's rising up into a higher frequency of creation. Control is the mind's attempt to protect the ego from uncertainty. But life isn't a machine to be managed. It's a mystery to be entered. The more you cling, the more resistance you create. And that tension becomes the soil for anxiety, doubt, and self-sabotage. But when you loosen your grip, not your focus, not your purpose, but your fear, you allow space for greater intelligence to move. This is not spiritual fantasy. It's emotional maturity. It's faith made practical. The farmer doesn't dig up the seed every day to check if it's growing. He prepares the soil, plants the seed, waters with care, and trusts. You are no different. Your efforts matter, but they are not the whole picture. When you learn to trust the invisible process, you create room for the unseen roots to form, and eventually, the harvest comes. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with the rhythm of becoming. This is the psychology of prosperity. Trust is discipline. It's the refusal to collapse into fear when results delay. It's the courage to keep showing up, even when nothing is guaranteed. When your inner posture says, "I am supported," the subconscious recalibrates. Your nervous system softens. Your voice steadies. You become a safer vessel for abundance. And that safety attracts what chaos repels. You no longer live in reaction. You live in rhythm. So remember this. The mind may resist, but the soul already knows. Real wealth begins not with money, but with the energy you bring to uncertainty. When you trust the unfolding, you activate a deeper intelligence. And that intelligence knows exactly where to take you. So maybe the question was never, will it work out? But who will I become if I choose to believe it will? When you act as if everything is aligned, you're not pretending. You're remembering. You're stepping into a version of yourself who leads with faith, not fear. And in that space, life responds. Not with perfection, but with purpose. The winds don't always calm, but your wings strengthen. And that changes everything. If this message spoke to something deep in you, don't let it fade. Anchor it. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone walking through their own storm. And don't stop here. Watch the next video we chose for you. It's the next step in your journey of self-mastery and transformation. You're not alone in this. You're already walking the path. Keep going.